So next story on the docket is establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve. Trump's been talking about tariffs. I mean, that he said was his favorite word in the English dictionary when he was on the campaign trail.
Had a really good time in El Salvador. Plan B was a lot of fun. I even got to have a little convo with Adam Back, which was amazing because, you know, that dude's unreal. You're talking to someone that literally inspired Satoshi to create Bitcoin.
So our favorite central banker out of Europe, Christine Lagarde, says no to Bitcoin for the EU Central Bank's reserve. It's pretty funny. We have like states saying they want to do a Bitcoin strategic reserve. El Salvador, which already adopted a Bitcoin standard a few years ago. The United States is signaling that they might have a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But Christine Lagarde's like, nah, I'm smarter and I'm better than all that. She's a dinosaur steering them towards extinction of the metaphorical meteor coming down and striking the EU.
All right, my workers and workettes, you are on another episode of the Rank and File Bitcoin podcast, where we break down all kinds of stuff in Bitcoin targeted towards workers and wage earners in line with the mission of proof of workforce. I'm here with the one, the only, the legendary blue collar sleeve roller upper himself, Chris Alamo. What is good, my man?
What's up, Dom? Doing well. Happy to be here, everyone. Yeah, we're still trying to get Jersey Mike's to sub to the channel and also be a sponsor would be dope. But if you're not Jersey Mike's, we'd appreciate like, comment, and subscribe and share with friends and family. But Dom, what's up?
Yeah, and the reason Jersey Mike's, of course, Chris, is because we place signal here and then we put subs somewhere here. So the signal is higher than the subs. However, if it were to be an Italian cold cut combo or something along those lines with some gabagoo, a little bit of Coca-Cola, which is gabagoo, so double gabagoo, then the subs would go above the signal. We will sacrifice good Bitcoin signal for an Italian sub.
Give me
I'm good, by the way.
Sylvester Stallone sub would be awesome.
Dude, a Stallone sub would be epic. Lots of stuff going on right now. I just got back from El Salvador, and my plane didn't have Wi-Fi on it, and so we were already kind of cooking down a little bit. And I get off the plane, and I always tell people don't check price because price doesn't matter. But when that service comes back in, the first thing I'm going to do is check that price. And we were quite deep in the toilet, I guess not really deep, but 91, 92. And now for the show, I guess, we're back at 102. What's going on, dude? What'd you do?
Yeah, so Trump's been talking about tariffs. I mean, that he said was his favorite word in the English dictionary when he was on the campaign trail. I guess we're about 2 weeks into his administration thereabouts, and he was talking about hitting tariffs. We kind of expected China to be in that mix, but I don't think many people were expecting Mexico and Canada to be in that. So obviously, Trump is, the art of the deal. That's always what Trump's doing. So he's always trying to get the best deal possible. He felt like the United States was being taken advantage of in terms of using our military might to prevent, they get the benefit of protection from the United States for this nice heated blanket that is the United States that protects both Mexico and Canada from attacks. But then at the caveat that a lot of illegal immigrants were flowing into the country from our north and south borders. So he's like, hey, if you guys don't want these tariffs or you don't want them to be as big, clean up the border, which is good for your country. It's good for our country. And that's kind of what he was laying there. So Dom, what are your thoughts on that?
Everyone was expecting China for the tariffs. They weren't expecting down south Mexico and Canada. Canada's taken very bad advantage of us. They've used us like a toilet, and they flush things down, and they don't come up. And we hit them with the tariffs too, and they'll come around. I don't know, man. Too much to keep up with, but I know the tariffs had something to do with the price action, I'm sure. I was saying this in my newsletter the other day, $2 trillion market cap. We always want to pin price volatility on one factor, right? But this thought that there's a lot of factors at work. And yes, as the market grows bigger, it gets lumped into macroeconomics at a global scale, but all kinds of stuff can be happening. I know Saylor didn't smash by as per usual ahead of the big earnings calls for some of the top companies. So yeah, I mean, everyone knew it was going to be a roller coaster in Trump's term. And so I think we're just all holding on for the ride. But Bitcoin showing its resilience with a quick bounce back. And, you got to just say, did you buy the dip? I don't know, but Yeah, it's trucking along.
For sure. And so Trump was planning to hit Canada and Mexico with 30% tariff or 30%, yeah, tariffs, while China only 10%. Those are supposed to go into effect. We're recording this on Monday, February 3rd, but they were supposed to go into effect tomorrow, February 4th. But they already reached negotiations with Mexico and Canada. Those are going to be pushed back a month. So obviously they're in negotiations. Art of the deal. Trump had them in a
Art of
pressure
the deal.
cooker.
Yeah. I had a good call with the president of Mexico, and she said, no more fentanyl. And so I said, we'll let you ship some stuff out then. We'll ship it right out. We'll get it right on the first cargo ship. We'll have it here, and it'll be bought by tomorrow. So we're working our deal one step at a time. And your Bitcoin's going to go up. Trust me, it's going to go way up. It's going to go higher up than you ever imagined.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it's two knuckleheads can talk
Is that
about
useful? Is that useful info? Hopefully for the listener, they got a real good taste of like what's going on with the tariffs.
Yeah, no, I
Thanks
think
to
that's
you.
good. But yeah, no, it's just amazing. We got, the two of us, just two knuckleheads. It would be great if we had like a financial professional or someone like that that could just call in to give a better adept understanding of tariffs or something
Chris,
like that.
Chris,
Oh,
we
what's
have
up?
a celebrity caller, someone claiming to be Tone Vays.
Oh, wow,
You mind
look at
if I
that.
put him through?
That's kind of cool, dude. If that is Tone calling in, that's epic.
All right, let's give it a rip. Let's bring him in.
Hey, guys. So the problem with the tariffs is that my country, Panama, they're going to sidestep it like an obstacle course. And ultimately, they're going to use the canal, and Trump knows this. And so Bitcoin might go down a little bit, but it's going to bounce up. I don't know if we found the bottom, but either way, Trump's tariffs are kind of a flex. He's kind of full of it. So we'll see how it works out. But I think a lot of countries are going to use Bitcoin to skip the tariffs completely. I love rank and file. You guys are killing it. I'll call back a different time.
Whoa, that was cool. Dom, this is great having Tone or suspected Tone Vays calling in.
I wanted to ask some follow up on that because I don't know if Panama is going to sidestep. I didn't know Panama was getting sanctioned, but if they are sidestepping it, I just would be curious how. And that brings up a good point. Like, how would a country sidestep tariffs with Bitcoin if they're on a full, Bitcoin standard and fully sent on the Bitcoin route?
Yeah, I don't know how they'd sidestep it, but obviously the life gets cheaper on a Bitcoin standard. So even though tariffs might be going up, your suspected rate of return would be still higher than the tariffs that are being proposed, so to speak. So, yeah, very interesting nonetheless. So next story on the docket is establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve. So Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announces establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve as a priority bill for the 2025 legislative session. This is Senate Bill 21, ironically, magic number, Bitcoin 21 million. So Senate Bill 21, establishing Texas as, establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve. So Dom, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my thoughts on that, Chris, we've talked a lot about the state level strategic reserve. My thing is this. It's a little bit of a leapfrog for states, depending on what the adoption is within those states. And what I mean by that is we all know that Bitcoin requires a ton of education and support to hold for the long run. I hope the strategic reserves are successful for the state because obviously the state holding Bitcoin is a good thing. The question is, will they be able to sustain it? And when a massive dip or something comes up and there's bad actors and Bitcoin gets blamed, when state leadership looks behind them at who is backing them up, if there's no one there, that is going to be an issue and people heads are going to roll and things are going to get reversed. So when I hear Texas, I think that they probably have one of the better chances to, pass a strategic reserve because, again, it's a state that's got heavy mining. Fort Worth was the first municipality to plug in a mining machine and start mining as a city. Actually was an inspiring point for the Santa Monica Bitcoin office and maybe exploring like how could they mine with renewable energy. So high hopes for Texas. And I think if it were to be anywhere, my money, my sats would be on Texas setting up a strategic reserve over any other state. But we'll see. The race is on,
Yeah, definitely. Maybe my other hat in the ring would be Wyoming. Obviously, Senator Cynthia Lummis is now going to be heading up or chairing the subcommittee for digital assets. And I know she's been a big proponent of Bitcoin in her state and trying to get it, pushed into bill or making a strategic reserve. That was kind of her bill or suggestion at Bitcoin 2024. So that's a good one.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's another big one. And again, it's just like when you think of things. I don't know about you, but bottom up adoption, Chris. You think of the individual, the family, and the household, the interest group like the church, the organization like the union, the you know municipality, the institution, then the state, then the federal government. So if there
yeah,
is going to
and
be
then
top
central
down,
banks on top of that, like central banks being the fast one after the nation states.
yeah, exactly. So that it's just can't be bypassed. But again, Texas has a good shot, and I do want to give. They had some very. Who is the Lieutenant Governor Patrick had some interesting bills there.
Yeah.
Number 24 was a bill supporting the education of the horrors of communism. So that's an interesting one. We'll have to talk about that next time because I guess people aren't aware of the horrors of communism. So we'll learn. They'll learn that in the school system.
There was no bill in there for educating about money, Dom. So, it's very interesting that they had all these other things in there, but they're still not talking about money.
Yeah.
I guess moving on to the next story. So, every week I need my privacy or,
Oh
non
yeah. You can
KYC
use your
story.
fix.
So the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or the EFF, joins Roman Storm's defense. So this is, once again, we were talking about the Tornado Cash case. So this case we talked about in week one's episode. So for those that haven't listened, go back to that and listen to it. Tornado Cash sanctions were reversed against the smart contract, but the courts ruled they have not reversed their decisions against the developer. So this is when the EFF joins the fight and urges the court to directly dismiss the criminal charges brought against Roman Storms, the developer of Tornado Cash. And they said, quote, if the court does not wish to dismiss the case on the grounds of the reversal of the sanctions, it should dismiss the case on the grounds of due process, because the government's argumentation is too broad interpretation of the law. It runs risk of criminalizing private software development as an expression of free speech. So obviously, the courts ruled that they were no longer sanctioning Tornado Cash, the smart contract, but they were still sanctioning Roman Storms, who's the one who created this smart contract and the software. So they're saying he committed money laundering and basically, not providing proper KYC, where the smart contract did nothing wrong, but he created it and it's still running even as he's in jail as we speak. So many people see this as unfair, undue justice. And obviously his lawyers are very thrilled to the EFF is joining their cause to fight for it. Dom, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so we know now that Operation Choke Point 2.0 was not a conspiracy, right? It was a real thing, and ultimately, this, along with some other cases that we've seen, with like how Ross was ultimately targeted, and by bad actors in the FBI that were stealing things and doing by whatever means necessary to catch Ross. There's some court cases. The Ripple court case had some interesting facts, regardless of the fact that Ripple has a lot of problems. And then the ETF getting denied. So the problem when you start off by going, hey, let's wreck this industry, is you're going to use all these different means that are not utilized in other areas. So I think in this case with the Tornado Cash, we're going to see more and more stuff to unravel, like the due process issue. And obviously, hopefully, that helps out, the developers and founders of Tornado Cash. And again, we talk about privacy being important, and privacy is not a bad thing between peers. Peers can exchange value for all kinds of reasons without it being criminal or suspect. So happy to hear that they're still chipping away at that. And hopefully we get more exposure as to some of the bad actors that were like, basically, I don't know, you tell me, Chris, is like, hey, we can't beat them on the merit of some of these issues, so let's go after and skip some due process steps here, and we'll get them that way.
Yeah, and even kind of it's a chilling effect. Like as of right now, you're innocent till proven guilty, but obviously with Roman Storms of Tornado Cash and Roman Sterling off of of Bitcoin Fog, they're both in jail right now. So it's been about 3 to 4 years for both of them. So they were both denied bail because they're technically not U.S. citizens. So one is a Dutch developer, the other one is a Russian developer. Obviously, it didn't help his case when the whole Russian-Ukraine war broke out. But basically, where if you were an American citizen, in theory, you could get bail and, while protect or defend yourself from the comfort of your own home with your lawyer, while these guys are not granted the same rights, unfortunately. So, and then I'll note one thing. So Lowly Leets did reporting on this, which was really great. I'd recommend people check that out. We'll include that in the show notes. But the last argument from the EFF was the argument is akin to claiming that Visa or MasterCard would be criminally liable based on solely receiving transaction fees whenever its customers transferred money as part of some underlying criminal activity. So obviously, the names of Visa and MasterCard, a lot of people perk up and would understand that. But like, how unfair would that be? And you don't even have to have a favorable opinion of Visa or MasterCard to say like, yo, that'd be unfair if like someone commits a crime and they're blamed for it without knowing, basically just receiving the fees for doing the transaction. All right, moving on to our next story. Dom, your boy Bobby was caught with his hand in the finger jar. You know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, was it Bob? What was his last name? It's like not Menendez. Oh yeah, Menendez, right?
Bob Menendez.
The
Yep.
senator from New Jersey, your hometown. Big shocker, taking gold on the under on some. The best part of the Bob Menendez story is basically he sponsored a bill called Accountability for Cryptocurrency in El Salvador Act, where him and Risch, another senator, Jim Risch from Idaho, raised alarms and started saying like, hey, El Salvador's adopting Bitcoin. It's all kind of hazards and it can support bad actors and criminals. It's like my good friend Amanda Cavallari says, one finger pointed out, three back at yourself. Oh, Bob, he was just trying to project, like his values onto El Salvador by saying, oh, it's going to aid for criminal activity. Meanwhile, he was taking, gold bars and pots of gold on the under. So, terrible thing. But again, always when the fiat maxis are questioning, the values of Bitcoin, like, look out, there might be something going on.
Yeah, so to give more context to the story, it was gold and cash from the governments of Egypt and Qatar. He was taking to the tune of $900,000. This is notable because Bob Menendez was also part of Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto army, saying Bitcoiners should only use Bitcoin to launder money and to avoid taxes. So, that's the great irony of it all, that this comes out. I think his case just got sentenced. I think it was 11 years in federal prison. Bob Menendez is 71 years old last time I checked. So, he'll be there for the better part of his days. He'll get out at 82 years old, but he'll still be a very old man by then.
Bukele should call him Bukele should call him like Tom in The Godfather at the end of the hearing, where he's like, "You owe my client an apology. You owe my client an apology," because again, they were slamming El Salvador. So yeah, man. Hopefully they get an apology letter from wherever Bob's at.
Definitely. So our favorite central banker out of Europe, Christine Lagarde, says no to Bitcoin for the EU Central Bank's reserve. It's pretty funny. We have like states saying they want to do a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We obviously have El Salvador, which already adopted a Bitcoin standard a few years ago. The United States is signaling that they might have a crypto or Bitcoin strategic reserve. But Christine Lagarde's like, nah, I'm smarter and I'm better than all that. We're not getting Bitcoin. That's an escape hatch. We're not getting involved with any of that. So, I think she's steering them. She's a dinosaur steering them towards extinction of the metaphorical meteor coming down and striking the EU. But Dom, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, the EU is putting on a clinic on what not to do with Bitcoin, from Germany selling all the Bitcoin that they had to Lagarde to things that are happening in the UK. Don't even get me started on their pension retirement system in the UK. But yeah, man, don't do like the EU, for the love of God. And I know there's a lot of good Bitcoiners over there that are working hard to try to educate people on Bitcoin, but no surprise there. The EU rolls on their Bitcoin fumbles.
For sure. Dom, so we got your worker/union recap of the week.
How are you doing? You had a little freeze there. Are you good? Are you good? Because I thought
I'm all good on
we
my end.
lost you
Yeah.
for a second. Okay.
No, I'm here. We're still
Steelworkers.
kicking it.
All right. Yeah, we got a couple minutes left because one of our new things is we're hanging with this 20-minute limit because the workers' break is usually only on a 20-minute break. So we're cooking here. Steelworkers president spoke out against Trump's tariffs against Canada, saying it's hurting union workers. I thought it was interesting, just a little tidbit for all the workers out there. Again, we talked about how can countries bypass tariffs in the future using Bitcoin. I think it's interesting for unions as they're dealing with different, global macroeconomic events, to remember to learn about Bitcoin and ways that it can withstand global events and things like that. So interesting to see that. But ultimately, the steelworkers said tariffs on Canada, no bueno, please stop. And so I don't think that's going to happen, but just an interesting tidbit for folks to look into from that angle.
Yeah, I think that's all we got for this week. Dom, anything else you want to say before I recap or end it?
No, I had an incredible time. I just wanted to get your thoughts real quick, Chris, but had a really good time in El Salvador. Plan B was a lot of fun. Got to connect with a ton of new Bitcoiners, old friends. I even got to have a little convo with Adam Back, which was amazing because, that dude's unreal. And you're talking to someone that literally inspired Satoshi to create Bitcoin. So that was pretty incredible. And the hot topic on the convo, sorry to go, hey, for if you're a worker and we're going into your break, just put your headphone in, pretend like you're on the phone and keep rolling because we got a couple more minutes here to discuss a couple important things. The hot topic was the IMF loan with El Salvador and El Salvador's rollback of the quote unquote mandatory legal tender status of Bitcoin. Chris, I don't know if you read the IMF's report, but they were kind of doing a little showboating. Their report was kind of like flexing, like, yeah, El Salvador is going to roll back. We undid the requirement for businesses to have to accept Bitcoin, and they're going to mitigate their risk. Again, this all ties into Bob Menendez, who led the Foreign Relations Committee investigation, and they mentioned the IMF there, but meanwhile, he was taking bribes in gold. I think Bukele in El Salvador has caught they caught a lot of flack on this, and I understand it's a bummer, but I think we got to remember this is a country that has logged more Bitcoin first than any other country I would say that I'm aware of on the planet. Bukele's got a whole nation of people to think about. He secured a loan for probably a good reason for all of his folks, and who knows what he was dealing with. I think we give it time. And I have confidence that the Bitcoin magic and the values and all of the great things about Bitcoin that helped support El Salvador moving forward, I think they're going to stick to those and hold true. So I think we haven't seen the end of Bitcoin as legal tender in El Salvador. And I was there. People are still accepting it. Of course, not as widespread as you would think, but I was able to use Bitcoin. Spirits were high. And people that I bumped into there in the past were very optimistic in learning about Bitcoin. And my guy who I always have pick me up from the airport, I've been giving him Bitcoin, and he was like, dude, I finally learned Bitcoin and I'm starting to save small amounts. So I got high hopes for El Salvador.
That's awesome. Yeah. I guess I'll keep mine short and sweet. That's awesome. You had a great time. Stay humble, stack sats.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Rank and File Bitcoin podcast. That's our 20 minutes with a little bit something. We went a little over. Sorry to bleed into your break. Tune in for us next time. We'll have some more takes and some insights slanted towards the worker wage earner. In the meantime, keep learning Bitcoin, stay humble, stack sats, don't trust, verify, all the good little goodie bag things that you love. Don't worry about price and don't check price. Where are we at right now, Lamo? I'm seeing that we're hovering somewhere around. All right, we're done. We're done.